Hello and welcome to another DG-CAD Revit Building 8.1 A to Z. We're talking about families. We're in the 7th lesson here of our Revit families, lesson 35, and hopefully you've gone through some of these. You can watch these lessons independently, but it's probably better if you actually follow the sequence because there's different things brought up in different lessons that are not necessarily specific to that lesson, but more so just too much information to pack into one. So there's different little tidbits that you'll pick up from one lesson to the next. So here we are talking about families and doors. And doors very similar to our windows lesson. A lot of similarity as far as placement of the trim by picking lines or by sweeping or by extruding it off of the surface. Okay, doors have panels, windows don't have a panel, and doors have some different options inside of here we'll see. And we have also symbol lines which only show up when you're looking perpendicular to the view. So the whole thing about doors take more advantage of using symbol lines and the massing elements, and you can make the massing elements be visible or not visible by going down into here and picking this visibility button, which is interesting. So that's how you get a combination. Sometimes you'll see the symbol lines and the massing, and sometimes you won't. I'll show you how to do that. So different ways of getting into doors and door families is you can start the family editor with the correct family template, or you can load a door family and then you can do a save as, and then you can investigate and modify that one. So same as any other family really, you can start one from scratch, or you can open an existing one or place one into a drawing and then click on it and say edit family and then save as. So there's several ways of getting in and actually getting started. We'll show you how to do that. This is just a view of an overhead door which does have symbol lines, and this one is got wireframe, so you're seeing right through and you're seeing the chamfered. This is a side view of this, so you're seeing both of these lines inside of here. That's what's going on there. And then up over here is just an overhead door, and it's got some model lines. Okay, these are symbol lines only showing perpendicular. These are actual model lines across here, and these lines will show even if you look in 3D. These are also blue model lines as well. This is a different door. So model lines inside of here, symbol lines here. And there's an example of going in and taking a door and actually rotating the panel, and then I would have to take my symbol lines, which are here, because when you look at this door in plan view, okay, you're seeing the symbol lines. The panel is being turned off. By default, the panel will be just shown here, and it's usually the door is closed. When you look in Revit at a door in 3D, it's always closed because the panel goes straight across, and I've just done an example of rotating the panel, and then the plan view would have to change or not, depending on how you want to do that. You can apply many of these same approaches to window and door families together. Make the wall material glass to see through it. That's just a little trick that I've been doing all the way through. Just as an example, is you can go and use your painter, your material painter there, and then you can paint a material onto it, and just so you can see through it. So I do that a lot of times, especially with roofs and stuff as well, where you can just be able to see through it in shaded mode. It's a nice way to look at things. Okay, we have different symbol line styles. We'll notice that when we're indoors, we've got, how a door will appear when it's cut, a door in projection, elevational swing projection, cut, okay, mullions, glazing, panels, plan swing. Okay, how this symbol line, this is a symbol line, and normally you would give that the style of being plan swing, whereas in this symbol line over here would be an elevational swing projection, right? And then if you wanted also the top view and plan view, we would also be able to change that. So these are different symbol line styles, okay, that you can take advantage of. So what we're going to do here by starting, we're going to open an overhead door, and we're going to look around at that door family. Then we're going to do a save as and modify the shape and panel. So we'll add some chamfered lines in here and add some trimming around that basic overhead door. And then we'll open up a man door, we'll look around at that, and then we'll look at the model and symbol lines and make a new type by going in again, same old story. Make a new type, give it a different size, and then change the parameters of that. We'll try rotating a door panel and adding some glazing and stuff to build this door over here. So when we draw, this is just a thing. Massing elements have some options that we've used this button already. Edit the work plane, but we can also go into visibility and say inside of visibility we can go in down in here and we can change. Oh, I don't have a capture of that. You can change whether you want the mass element to be visible in the different views. So we'll see that. So that's very handy. A little bit of magic going on in there. Again, these are model styles. Okay, when we talk about, we have these line styles, these are symbol lines, and then these are model objects inside of here, and this is how they will appear. Elevational swing, frame mullion, glass, these are model options, and then how they look in projection, how they look when they're being cut, and the color, and then the line pattern that they are. We also have annotation objects over here. And this is in our visibility graphics, right? And then we can also orient, just something in note here, that when you want to draw on that diagonal door panel to create the window hole, you can go orient and you can say by plane and pick the plane, and it will orient your view perpendicular to that. Okay. And lastly, over here before we go in, is always note that depending on the family you're in will depend on the different views you get inside of here in your project browser. So your project browser will be different depending on what family type you're building. So that's why it's so important that you start with the right template file. So let's go back into our Revit here, or let's go into our Revit, open up an overhead door, and then have a look around. So here we are in our Revit, and I'm just in a basic project, and I've just kind of got a wall in there with nothing on it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by going in and loading up an overhead door. So I'm just going to go into door here, and then I'm going to pick load, and it's going to go to my Imperial Library, and I'm going to go door. Overhead door sectional chamfered. This is the one that I've already made, and then we can see the different doors, and we can work our way down here, and there's a sectional door. Okay, and I think that's all we've got for overhead doors. I'm just going to continue paging down here. Oh, there we go. Overhead sectional again. Okay, again, you can start off, get something as close as you want, go in and modify it. Okay, and let's just open up this one. Basic generic overhead sectional door. So I'm going to load that into my Revit file, and then now I'm going to go over to here and I'm going to select it, overhead sectional, because it wasn't giving me the right one, and then I can click on there. Okay, now I'm on the inside, and we can see if I click around what's going on with that door. Okay, and you can see there, all this is very basic. If we've seen it with Windows, it is a wall that has an opening. Again, if I hover over here and I tab through and I read what's going on down in here, or you'll see that eventually it will say opening. Now it's not there, so maybe it's on the other side. Maybe it's over here. Tab, 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 tab. Oh, I'm not getting it. Well, we'll get back to that. But the thing is, there's my panel, which is sitting on the back, and there's some line work, and the line work is on this side of the panel, and all that is an extrusion, nothing more than that. Okay, and it's got some constraints on it. If I go down here and I look from the east or west or south, I'll see that door inside of there. Okay, and maybe I'll look from the north. Okay, if I click on that tab until I get the panel, the door, and I go in and say, oh, I'm in the project. I thought I was in the actual family. I need to go into here and go into edit family. Getting a little ahead there. So now I have that. Now I'm in the actual family editor. Now when I tab, I'll be able to tab until I get the cut opening, and I'm going to click on there, and you can see it's anchored to there, and I can say edit. Okay, same thing as with our windows. Okay, all it is a cut opening in a wall to start with. So I'm going to go back to my south elevation or interior elevation. I'm going to see that, and I'm going to see that it's also got some constraints on those. But now I'm just working with the opening of the window, okay, or the door. So I can go in here now if I want, and I can draw some line work and go from here to here. Okay, and I'm going to, that's locking to that, which is fine. And then I'm going to simply take this and mirror, and you can't see my mirror command that well. Mirror that over, and then I can go in and just do my regular trim. And then I could put some dimensions on here and constrain it and say, this is the chamfer distance, and then we could, have that as a variable, as a type or an instance. And I'm just going to say finish sketch. And that's now cut a new opening in the door. So now what happens is I'm only seeing that because that's my opening, and my panel's just kind of sitting back here with some line work on it. Okay, and that probably is fine for the shape of the panel. That'll do. Now I might want to put some trim around there. So I'm going to go in here and I need to put some trim on. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to do a sweep, solid sweep. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to pick the path. So I'm going to go here, click. Now notice that that's going to be my starting profile where I'm going to draw that. I'm going to pick this as my path for my sweep. And then I'm going to finish the path. And now I know because of my first line, I need to go over to here and draw my profile from this angle. Okay, so there's my door panel over there. Actually, I think I'm over at this one. There it is. You can see the red dot. So then I can say, okay, off I go. Click, click, click. I can do whatever I want. I can move this panel off of there as well. It's just snubbed up against there, and I can say finish profile, finish sweep. There's my door. Go back to my 3D view and I've got my sweep on there. Okay, so again, now if I want to go in, tab until I can't quite see it. Maybe I'll take that again, and I can always take that and hide that. Hide that object. Isolate that object. I wanted to hide that. Okay, so I could go in and modify the shape of that opening. Okay, and then it would drive from there. So now if I want to say, okay, well, I don't like these lines, I can just click on them because those are just model lines. And then removing the constraints is fine because there was dimensions that were attached to those before. Okay, those are all just model lines. Then I can go look at from the exterior. Okay, which is here, and now I can go draw my own model lines. Well, I want to set my work plane first, so I'm going to go back to here for a second. There's my panel. I'm going to go up to here and say Tools, Work Plane, Set the Work Plane. I'm going to say Pick a Plane, hit OK, and I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to make sure I get that as my work plane. Then I can go to the exterior view, and now I can draw some line work. So again, I just go in, I'm doing model lines because I want it to be view in all visible in all views. Pick a plane. It's still asking me for a plane on there. So I'm gonna pick a plane by hovering over here. Let's go back, model lines, pick a plane, and I'm gonna go down to here and I'm gonna tab until I see that panel, and that's gonna be, and now I can go in and draw my model lines, and all I'm gonna do is draw a rectangle inside of here somehow. And then maybe take this, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this part of it. Nudge that over. And then maybe, move that over, copy one over this way. Take those, move them over, and then do my mirror. Okay, and then I would just copy those up any way I want and constrain them with dimensions. And the thing is, when I go into my 3D view, those are model lines now that are on there. There's no big extrusion. If you want to do an extrusion, then you would go in and do a solid form extrusion instead of just drawing model lines. Okay, this is just the bare bones, something that you're going to see in elevation and a little bit in 3D. Okay, so you can add that on to there as you please. And of course, what I should do before I go too far is I should do a save as on this, right? You should always go in and give this a different name because I'm editing a different the sectional, and now I can give my own name and work it from there. Now let's have a look at this from our side, our left or right elevation. Okay, you'll see that we have lines in here. These are your symbol lines, and if I click on there, it says swing elevation style. If I change this to be, a glass cut line style, it'll be, that color and that property, because that's what that object style is set up to look like. We can go in here and we can actually look at our object styles, right? We can go to our annotation. We go to model objects and we can see that, you know, different things are controlled inside of there. And I'm just going to cancel out of that. Okay, and then we've got, those are model objects, and then we've got our symbol line styles. And every time you try to draw a symbol line, it'll ask you to pick a panel. We hit OK. We can just pick on any surface, and then it'll try to make you perpendicular to that surface. But the thing is, once you get inside of there, you'll have these different line styles that are available. Doors and windows are just a little bit different. Okay, so if we do look at this from the right side, we can see that that's there. Now maybe if we go to our top view, maybe we want to have showing a dashed line, because by default there is no dashed line showing the extent of the overhead door in plan view. Okay, it doesn't show it. These are just reference planes and dimensions. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to draw symbol lines. And because I'm in this view, it's going to draw it in this particular perpendicular, and I'm going to say, okay, I want a, now doors do not have a, overhead doors do not have a plan swing, so I'm going to go with elevational swing, because that's the same style, and I'm going to go projected, which will be the dashed one. Okay, and all I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw a rectangle, and I'm going to start it from there. I'm going to go out to here. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I should have clicked on that dimension temporarily to become permanent, because now I have to go back anyway and do a new dimension from here to here, and then I'm going to click on this dimension and give it a label of the door height. Oh, and just a second here. I must have hit the wrong one. Let's try that again. In here, door height. Oh, I hit add a parameter. Door height. Puts that in, and then I can, for instance, I can save this. Okay, and now this one in 3D, of course, you won't see those model lines. Okay, in the right side, you don't see those lines. Only when you look from here, you will see those lines. So let's try pushing that out to a project. Let's go over to here, load to project, and then I'm just going to add one in, click on it, click out. Now, is that mine? It's not mine. I want the DG one. DG one, look at that, comes with dashed lines. Okay, and depending on the scale in here will depend on how that dashed line appears. Okay, that's why it looks really small in the other one. So now I've added that in. If I change the width of that door, DG, I don't have any more types. Okay, let's go back, edit the family. Yes, we do. And now I'm going to quickly go into my family types, and I'm going to add some new types in here. I'm going to say new, and this is going to be a 9 foot by 9 foot. Hit OK, and then I'm going to say OK, the height is 9 feet and the width is 9 feet, and then I can hit apply, and I can hit OK, and I can hit save, and I can push it back out to my project, bring it in, and now I'll see that I can first of all change this to be a 9 foot by 9 foot, and also my dash lines are all going to update accordingly. Okay, so that's just one way of going in, back, edit the family, and then if I didn't want those, all I would have to do is erase these right now and they would go away. Okay, so that's a nice example of using symbol lines versus the model lines or model objects. Now when we go to we can click on this mass element here, we can go into visibility and we can say, okay, this panel is being shown in plan RCP. It's in front and back, left and right, and one cut, coarse, medium, and fine. So this panel is pretty much shown all the time. If I took this off and hit OK, and then save this, push it out to my project, my plan view is not going to show that panel anymore, because it's told that when you're in plan view, oh, I'll have to check on that now, just a sec. And what I did, the visibility, I'm going to go back and edit that family, and I said don't show it in plan view, but not in cut plan view. Let's have another look at that. Visibility, plan RCP when cut in plan. Let's try that one instead. Now let's also say we don't want it to show in medium detail, or let's add a little more twist to it. Okay, let's save this, And then let's go back to our project, reload it. Okay, and our panel, all we're seeing there is our reference planes, and so our panel isn't showing in plan view when it's cut. Now let's go over to here in 3D view, and we can see the line work, but we can't see the panel because we're in medium detail. If I go to coarse detail, we're going to see the panel now. Okay, if I go to fine detail, I'm going to see the panel. If I go to medium detail, I'm not going to see the panel. So that panel's been told to not be viewed in medium detail, okay, and also not to be shown in plan when it's being cut through. So these are just different little tricks that you can do with your model objects and your symbol lines, combining those two objects to get the views you want from the different angles. So let's try bringing in just a regular man door here. Flush single 36 by 80. Bring that door in like that. Okay. Now, what we're seeing here is actually a combination of a couple things. The door, if we look at this in 3D, we're seeing that door panel. Okay. Right there. Forget all about this one for now. Okay. There's our door panel. And the extrusion, we've seen that, right? I'm going to turn this into glass here so we can glazing. Turn this into glass so we can see through that door. Okay, we've got an extrusion of the trim, which is again our donut type thing. All it is a closed polygon extruded out off of this surface, same as on the other side. And our panel again is just a panel that is a rectangle that's extruded, and it's offset from one of these reference planes. Okay, but you'll notice that when you go to the top view, you don't see that panel anymore because that panel is told not to be shown when cut in plan view. These lines in here, this rectangle and this line in here, these are symbol lines. Okay, we're going to go in, we're going to edit that family. Very basic door, and it's got no trim on there. We're going to go to here, and we're going to go to our floor plans. We'll look at our main floor. Okay, and there's our door. So it's got, again, here's our little extrusions on in here. We can go to visibility and say, okay, you know, do not show. So that's why that frame actually only shows in 3D. Okay, that frame doesn't show when you look at this in 2D. If we go back to our project here in our main floor plan, okay, you'll notice it's not showing the frame, and that's because those mass elements right here are actually told not to be shown when they're cut. If you want them to be in there, you can put that on there. Okay, then you've got your same detail level over here. Now that is that extrusion. Okay, maybe you want to do the same with this one. Plan when cut. And I'm going to have to do a bit of investigation, the difference between these two. One is, I guess, projected and one is cut. And then you can see it's just got some basic constraints. If we go to our family types, we can see we've got, you know, thickness, height, width, and you can click on here and you can have a look and see what's going on as far as types and instances and what they're using and the numbers they're using, that type of thing. Investigate around, okay, is the idea here. But you'll see that inside of this family, we're in the family editor. We've got these mass elements, we've got our door, we've got our opening. If I pause and tab, there it is there, the cut opening cut, so pausing over and tabbing. And then there's my door panel, which if we look at that, it said not to be shown when it's being cut. Detail level is fine, which means it's only going to be shown in 3D views and not, you know, in the front and perpendicular. So in elevation and in 3D it's shown, in plan cut it's not being shown. Then we have these lines over, these are just symbol lines. Look, line, symbol line. If I click on this, it's just a panel cut line. I can change it to be a different symbol type line over here if I want. Okay, same as this type of object over here. That is just a symbol line, and it's, you know, given specific dimensions. And then because they're drawn based on these reference planes, they'll update when we change our size, because we can go over into here and flex the model by going into here and saying, okay, well, show me the 32 by 48 or 84, and then everything's going to update because it's all being tied in. Okay, we can also look at this in elevational view. Let's look from the, and it doesn't say front and back. I would think this would be the front and the back, but let's look at this from the back. Well, look, the swing is hinged on the right, so let's go to the front view. Okay, there's the hinge. Again, interesting, these lines only show up, these symbol lines, if we check the visibility, are specifically called elevational swing projection. Okay, they're only going to be, because it's a symbol line, it's only going to be visible when you look perpendicular to this view or this panel, and second of all, it's given this particular line style. So if you open up a door or window and you don't want, if you're in your project and you don't like to see the swing lines, or maybe you want the same type of window with no swing, go open the family and then simply go inside of here and delete these lines, and then they'll be gone, and then you have yourself, do a save as in between. Casement windows, and that is a perfect example where you might want to go in and have a double casement or a single casement, or change your swing. That's when you can easily go in, open the family, and then switch these lines around, and off you go. So that's a great tip right there. Again, symbol lines. Okay, and then you can see that this is always equal, this is constraint. Okay, these are constraint to there, and there's a dimension that says equal equal. Okay, we've got that information up there. We've got our trim width. Okay, remember, we go into here, trim width, there it is right there. There's that 3 inches. If we change this to be 2 inches and then hit apply and hit OK, our door will, and that now depends on, you have to be careful because I just changed this one type. Okay, I didn't change the other types. Remember, all you have to do to make a new type in here is go new, give it a name, and then go and change your numbers. And usually your name reflects the dimensions down inside of here. So you want to be kind of aware of that. But basically, again, and you can rename and you can delete a type if you want, hit apply. So you can flex the model from within here, as well as create new types of that particular version. Okay, so let's try going back. I'm just going to have a look in my 3D view here, and maybe I want to have that door swing open a little bit, like I've got in my document over here. Okay, I want to kind of do this type of thing. So there's a this is tricky trying to get it to update the size and everything, but as an example here in a couple different lessons, let's try to do that. So we'll go over here to our Revit. And I'm just going to go into my, I could draw the glass panel, but I'm going to make it difficult on myself, and I'm going to go down into here, okay, and I'm going to click out, that was my camera there, and I'm going to take this object and I'm going to rotate it. Now remember, when you rotate, you can drag your rotation point if you want over to somewhere else, okay, and then I can say, okay, rotate the door like this. So it's going to take the panel. I'm going to have to remove some constraints because it was aligned with this. Delete a dimension. Okay, so now I've rotated that panel. If I look in 3D, okay, everything's working. Do a shaded view. I have that in there. Now I want to draw a window on that, or cut a hole in there, and then put some glazing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say view orient by plane, and then I'm going to say pick a plane, hit OK, and watch. I can go over and I can click on there, and it's going to make me be perpendicular to that. So there's a tip you can use for all different types of solids and extrusions and working with massing. So now I'm going to simply go in and do a I'm going to modify the shape of this door. I'm going to click on here and just hit edit. Okay, now all I have to do is draw a rectangle. So I'm going to go line, draw a rectangle, and I'm not going to be real particular about the size of it. Something like that. Okay, and then I can say finish the sketch, and there's my hole in my, so now hole in my door. Now I want to add some glass. So now this is a new extrusion. So I'm going to say okay, solid form extrusion. Glass is actually a material, and I'm going to say it's got a 1-inch depth, and I'm going to do line work, and I'm going to just pick these edges as my extrusion. Oh, I got some overlapping lines. So I'm going to try doing an extrusion a little differently here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and do my extrusion, and I'm going to draw lines, and I'm going to draw a rectangle instead. Oh, I must be on the wrong work plane. Let's set a work plane here. Right there. Okay. Try our line work again. There we go. Must have been on the wrong work plane. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to lock all these. So I'm doing my glass extrusion, and I'm going to make sure it's 1 inch. And if you don't get it exactly right the first time, you can always go in and change this. So finish the sketch, and then I have that object inside of there. Now what I didn't do is make it glass. I'm going to go into here and go to my materials and say you are glass. Hit OK and hit OK. Click out, go to my 3D view, which I'm in, and then go over there. Now what's my problem? Okay, my extrusion I should have made minus 1 inch to sink it in, and then I could also have, you know, moved it over, offset it, because as that sits, it's right on the edge. It's not really centered. So if I was to go into here, for instance, and then go to wireframe, oh, it must be below my cutting plane. I'd have to go in just to kind of offset that and bring it in. I would want to bring my cutting plane down so I could see that panel and then move it in, and I'm not really paying attention to providing that. Now the other thing is, of course, I'd need to take my model line and bring that back to there. Okay, and I'd also need to take these guys inside of here if I wanted to do that properly, and go rotate, take my rotation point down to here, and no, kind of botching up that rotation. Rotate these model lines to represent that, and then you would have that inside of there. Okay, so that works. And then of course you would go in and constraint, give this a height, go into this extrusion, of course, you know, and you want to go in and do a dimension perpendicular and call this width and call this height, so it'll change sizes when this door changes sizes. Positioning it and anchoring it back to that corner is a little bit tricky, so just a note on that. And that concludes our Revit 8.1 A to Z lesson on door families here from DG CAD. So combining this with our window families lesson, and then further some lessons on doing mass elements and the different ways you handle mass elements with reference planes, you should have no problems with creating and modifying your doors and windows.